Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about the Barnes& Noble half-price Criterion sale, which was going to start July 2nd, which is a week from today. I'm recording this on Friday, a week before the sale begins. Barnes& Noble sale that I participated in, maybe even since the first, I can't even remember how long ago it was. Normally I buy everything online like most people do. The exception is the Barnes& Noble sales. I just love going there and having the Blu-rays in hand, and I've always had great conversations with fellow shoppers who share the enthusiasm for the sale. And last November, I think it's the only time I went in a retail store last year, or at least after the pandemic arrived, and picked up quite a few Criterions on sale then. And normally on my channel sort of evolved into discussing movies that I think have been unjustly overlooked, underrated, forgotten. But I have quite a few classics of the canon, as they say, that I don't think I've discussed. I've never made a individual video on these, and I think only a couple of them have I talked about in passing. And these are all, almost all these are Criterions that are loaded with extras, and I always think one of the reasons it's worth the money to buy a Criterion edition is because of all the great extras that they have. So let's get started. And this is going back to 1941. This is Sullivans Travels, Preston Sturges movie. It has two absolutely fantastic scenes in it. The opening scene, where the opening is we're watching a excerpt from a movie, and then we go into a studio head office where the two studio heads are trying to convince Joel McCrea, who has been box office bonanza for the production company, the studio, with movies like Hey Hey and the Hayloft. He wants to make a serious film. They try to talk him out of it. This is just pure. It may be the best scene that Preston Sturges ever wrote. I watched the opening scene over and over again. It's like maybe a 10-minute scene. There's also another scene at the end of the film, towards the end, where a chain gang in a southern state is taken to a black church in which they're going to be shown a movie. And they're about as forlorn and bedraggled and as a group can be, and the black church is full of sharecroppers who are only about one step above that in their forlorn nature and lot in life. And they sit in the church, and a cartoon is shown, and the black people in the congregation start laughing like crazy, and the convicts are looking around. What are they? This is such a stupid, slapstick kind of cartoon, and then slowly they too begin to laugh. And so great scenes in this film, and plus you get Veronica Lake in her peekaboo hairstyle, which became the rage in America in 1941. Now we have a 1945 movie, Leave Her to Heaven. That's Gene Tierney on the cover. Anybody who's seen the movie knows how chilling this particular scene is and how chilling those sunglasses are. Tierney, I think I prefer this Tierney performance to any of her others. It's a kind of a film noir in Technicolor. The Technicolor in 1945 was mostly used for musicals and comedies, but it was used here, and this looks absolutely stunning. This is the 3-strip Technicolor process of the 1940s. So you have vivid colors and shades and hues of greens and reds that you're never going to see again. As I say, Tierney looks great. The film is always compelling and beautiful. The set design, Jean Crane playing Gene Tierney's sister, also looks incredible in Technicolor, directed by John Stahl. And we come to 1950. This is All About Eve. And as Betty Davis, Ian Baxter is in the blurred figure. This is really a must-have, and this is a special edition, and there's two commentaries. One with Celeste Holm, 2000. Celeste Holm plays Betty Davis's best friend in this movie. Joe Mankiewicz, Marilyn Monroe turns up in it. So there's lots of great extras here, including the short story that this movie was based on. It's, to me, I like Betty Davis' performances between this and The Letter. And this movie is all about performance and how Ann Baxter is a performance artist, and she convinces everybody of a story that isn't true to ingratiate herself into it and into a theatrical clique, of which Betty Davis is a big Broadway stage actress, star. And the performance even lends over into real life as Gary Merrill, who plays in this movie opposite Betty Davis, fell in love with Margot Channing, the character that Betty Davis, at least that's what Betty Davis said. In a few weeks after they finished the movie, they actually did get married, and Betty Davis said he didn't marry Betty Davis, he married Margot Channing. Here's another one. This is one of the great film noirs of all time. Kiss Me Deadly, Robert Aldrich. Ralph Meeker is Mike Hammer. There's Cloris Leachman turns up in the beginning of the film when she was a young ingenue. I think she gets blacklisted. Her film career kind of stalled, and she's only in it for a little bit. The Great What's It, it's got one of the great concluding scenes in film history. It's got great scenes of Los Angeles in the early 1950s. Robert Aldrich, A.Z. Bezarides, I think, I don't know if I pronounce his name right, but just a great screenplay by Bezarides. Next up, from the same year, 1955, another Norrish movie, Night of the Hunter, the very famous movie, the only film ever directed by Charles Laughton, Robert Mitchum, Lillian Gish, Shelley Winters. The fairy tale fable photography is simply stunning. Too bad Laughton never made any more movies. It would be interesting to see what else he could make. I would say even if he had a longer career, I don't know if he could ever top The Night of the Hunter. This is just an absolutely brilliantly made film, and it looks better and better. There's really no other movie that's quite like this. It's fairy tale compositions. It's beautifully acted in a kind of German expressionistic way that Laughton was always highly influenced by. Next up, we have The Sweet Smell of Success. This is from 1957, directed by Alexander McKendrick, starring Tony Curtis, Burt Lancaster playing a kind of Walter Winchell character, Curtis playing one of his many portrayals of hustlers, people on the make, people that will tell lies to get themselves forward, to get success. He runs up into fate here. He thinks he's in control of the situation, but he's not. This is a really brilliant film. Originally, Clifford Odets, Ernest Lehman came on board, who had been a press agent, so there's a lot of authenticity. And if the cast of Lancaster and Curtis at the height of their acting prowess isn't enough, there's fantastic New York City nighttime cinematography by the great James Wong Howe. Next up, these aren't classics in the same sense of these other films, these Hollywood. These are two French films by probably my favorite director of the French New Wave, which is Claude Chabrol's Lebeau Surge. This was his debut film in which he goes back to his hometown. It stars Gerard Blaine and Jean-Claude Brialy. And it's just a great atmospheric movie. It's a little bit different than some of the other Claude Chabrol films that came later. But if you're familiar with the Chabrol movies, you can see the touches and the kind of friendships and that go sour in Lebeau Surge, and especially in his follow-up Claude Chabrol's follow-up film, Cuisines, The Cousins. Same two actors, whereas as Lebeau Surge was set in the countryside, this is set in Paris, where and they sort of reverse roles in this film, and this is very much like very in tune with the Claude Chabrol's later films. The only two films of Claude Chabrol, I think, in the collection, and there's so many films from the 60s of Chabrol that are not on DVD or in Blu-ray in English or in America, U.S. region. So hopefully more will come, but these two are really just so much overlooked as far as the French New Wave goes, and as far as Claude Chabrol's career, and they go way back. These, I think, are these two films, I think, go way back in some of the earliest Blu-ray releases by Criterion. So now we come to another French New Wave film, and this is Peru Lefou by Jean-Luc Godard. I'm not the greatest Jean-Luc Godard fan, but I love this film. This is just absolutely essential. This is the original Peru Lefou. It went out of print, came back, I think, last year into the Criterion collection. I think it's basically the same copy and extras. This is just so much fun. I mean, for a Godard film, and Jean-Paul Belmondo and Anna Karenina, you can't go wrong. They were the two ultimate stars, I think, of his filmmaking career. Karenina and Jean-Luc Godard had been married, but by the time they filmed this, they had already broken up. And you can read the film as kind of like a autobiographical account of their relationship, the making of movies. The movie covers a lot of different genres, including musical. And it's the color photography by Raoul Coutard, and the performances by Belmondo and Karenina are just fabulous. It's just, I like this movie more and more every time I watch it, which is not the case for me with Jean-Luc Godard. And finally, we come to one of the 1960s icons of European art film, and that's Michelangelo Antonioni's Blow Up. This too, a special edition. It has some great extras in it. David Hemmings, this is Antonioni's first English language movie. Like Peru Lefou, it sort of catches the atmosphere of the 1960s. In this case, the feeling of what London felt like in the swinging 60s, of miniskirts and just total relaxation of the repressive values that so many people, so young people especially, were rebelling against in the 1960s. It has one of the great sequences where David Hemmings blows up. There's no dialogue. It's just a long sequence where he blows up pictures that he has taken in this park. And he eventually finds that there's a dead body in pixels when he finally gets to the largest blow-up enlargement. And it's a mystery, but it's a mystery as only Michelangelo Antonioni could conjure up, existential, philosophical. But you have to read between the lines to find all that. And even if Sarah Miles is wasted, and really Vanessa Redgrave a little bit, I guess you'd say, well, she doesn't have much to do, but she's good at the little bit that she has to do. She's integral to the plot, even if she doesn't have to do a whole lot of acting. But this is, I think, a seminal work. Lots of great extras, including Julio Cortázar's short story that was based on. It's fascinating the way that even though he was considered one of the great writers of that era, Antonioni took great liberties with that short story. So those are 10 movies that I would really recommend being part of your Criterion collection if they're not already there. They're both great films. Almost all of them have superb extras in them that, like I said before, is really one of the reasons why I love to collect Criterions, and I guess most people do. Okay, that'll wrap this one up. Happy hunting and Criterion sale if you're able to participate. Other than that, you guys take care, and I will catch you next time.